18 years is a long time to be doing the same thing, but especially to be doing something that when I started, I wasn't even convinced would exist in 18 more years, or I wasn't sure 100% if that's where things were going. I did eventually fully commit thinking that YouTube was the future of whatever media would be, but I didn't know. I've been doing it a long time. I'm quite proud of the library of videos that I made, the ones that are still visible, the ones that aren't, the channels that I've grown, the channels that have failed, the work I've done with brands, the work I've done with other creators. I'm proud of it all. But that doesn't mean every individual thing went exactly how I wanted. It doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that there aren't sections that I don't regret. Having done YouTube since 2006, the section, the era, the chunks of videos that I regret the most are the ones where I was trying my best to emulate or copy someone else. Now, I want to give a huge disclaimer here. These conversations are had a lot. And I want to say, if you were just starting out as a YouTuber, as a content creator, podcaster, whatever the hell, emulating someone else's style on the path to find your own, as long as you're not plagiarizing, it's totally fine. It's a normal part of the process for any artistic process, whatever. You see someone do something cool, you're like, hey, I want to do that. You learn how to do it, and then you make it your own from there. Totally fine. But I've been doing it for 18 years, and there are multiple waves of videos that I can look back upon where, at least for a little bit, or a one-off video or whatever, I've made something that was trying to emulate someone else's success. Now, ironically, I'm doing it for this video to kind of prove a point. It's not my normal video. It is a style of video that I am making, but it's not the exact way that I normally make it. And if you recognize who I'm riffing on, I'll have them tagged below. Good for you. That's awesome. I want to see how many people are aware. But I'm doing it. I'm doing it on purpose. This is not a lack of self-awareness moment here. But looking back, whether I tried my hand briefly at emulating the Casey Neistat vlog style, whether it's me trying to, when I started really getting into gameplay commentaries, when I really tried to emulate being someone like CNanners, only I didn't have anything to talk about yet, or in a specific video. I didn't wait until I had something to talk about, and I just tried to emulate his mannerisms, and it didn't really work. Any of those moments where I already knew how to do a medium and I was just trying to emulate someone else to see if I could get their success, I look back at that, and I wouldn't say I would cringe. I think the only kind of cringe is self-cringe, and I don't believe in doing it, and I believe in respecting yourself as you grow and learn, and, we're still figuring things out. But I do regret that, because virtually never does it pay off. Yeah, if you hop on the right trend, you can get some viewers by doing the thing. One of the things I complained about the most during Casey Neistat's height of growth on YouTube was that so many YouTube channels that I watched and I thoroughly enjoyed content from went from making videos that had a point and had content that I enjoyed watching to still making videos that had that somewhere, but it was like a 2-minute segment buried in an 8-minute vlog about coffee and walking around New York City, and just completely disrespectful of my time. It'd be like selling all my camera gear, and then it's a coffee vlog and a New York vlog and whatever, and there's maybe a minute dedicated to talking about selling their gear and why they're doing it or something like that. That was a waste of my time. It was a big move that a lot of creators did to try to capitalize on the popularity of a format that Casey had made popular and try to get some of those viewers. And I'm sure it worked. But pretty much all of them moved on from it, except for Casey, because it was only authentic to Casey. And I really worry about that with this whole classic YouTube trend that's going on right now, because it is very much a trend. If something is authentic to you, you are going to push to do it in some way or another with your own spin on it. You're not going to be like, oh, people are doing this and saying it's authentic, so I'm going to do it too so I can be authentic. That's not how authenticity works. And if you do it, like I said, if you're a new creator, new whatever in any field, and you see someone doing something and you're like, wow, that is kind of cool, I want to try this, and you do it, and then you fall in love with it and you transform it into something of your own, that's totally fine. But I think a lot of people literally copy paste some of these people's videos and just try to clone success rather than making their success, rather than taking an idea, because all art, all of creativity is your brain making connections and neural pathways between the things you've absorbed. It's drawing a line from A to B of ideas in your head. So that's going to be the other art and media you've been exposed to, your life experiences, things people have said to you. All of those things are like a big pile of stuff in the floor. And during your downtime, your brain makes connections between those things and finds unique ways to connect and convey them. And that is how art is conceived. You still have to make it, but that's how it's conceived. So like every form of art involves taking the things from the art that you enjoy and turning it into something else. And that is fine. Art is not cloning what someone else is doing because you're trying to hop on a trend. And I think a lot of people don't know what authenticity is, and they're not doing something authentic when they're just copying someone else. And I really worry about this trend, both for the mental health of these creators who truly seem like they need a break and they need to do something true to them, but then they're copying what is true to someone else because that's not going to fulfill that and give them the relief that they need. And just the sustainability of things on the platform, because it rarely works. Like, if anything, the risk reward here is that if you see the trend and you do something authentic to you, you can try and you can fail. And the worst case scenario is you don't find great success on it, but you did something fulfilling to you. You forged your own path, and then you go find something else to do. Worst case scenario, if you clone someone else's work, is actually succeeding in that, because then you are stuck cloning someone else's work, being beholden to their ideas, and doing something that isn't true to you or authentic to you, and having lied to yourself and to everyone else that it was, and then you're stuck with it. And I've been that at many points, even for things that I truly believed were authentic to me. And those are the parts of my career, those are the waves of my videos that I look back on with regret. One such thing, and I don't know how much I regret this other than the money hole that it turned into, but one of the things that like falls in a similar vein for this with me is I started a YouTube channel for Pokémon TCG openings. I called it Hollow Quest. I've been doing Pokemon TCG videos since like the early 2010s. I've been a Pokemon card collector casual, you know, off and on. Just, I love them. I didn't get hardcore into it for the most part for all my life, ever since they existed. And in the early 2010s, I had money for the first time and was buying up some packs and some cards and whatever. And eventually the X and Y series came out and I got my first booster box experience, and it was the biggest dopamine rush ever. And I was making videos on that. And I just did that on main channel. And I had some success, especially when my local Walmart wound up leaking some packs early. Like, you know, I had some success with it, but eventually my work moved on from that subject. And I kind of missed it. And the Pokemon card scene started getting big again around the anniversary. And I was like, I want to do this. And so I made a whole channel for it and got back into it. And I got hardcore into it. I got way too wrapped up into this because to me, it was something that the act itself, just collecting Pokemon cards and sharing that interest with others, was something that was true to me. But doing it in a way that succeeds on the scene and keeping up with the scene, which is full of drama. The scene was very much tainted by scalpers and a speculative bubble and grading, and it took it away from being like a fun childhood hobby into this capitalistic greedy fest. None of that was true to me. None of that was authentic to me. And I wound up just stopping. I still had like a good couple $1,000s of product that I never opened, that I had invested into this venture, that I was doing both on stream and in videos. I had spent a bunch of money getting my videos edited by someone else so I could do it alongside my main work. I was doing all this other stuff. And I just had to stop because it became so toxic and took away from what I really wanted to be doing. But I had that wake-up call that, hey, this isn't actually authentic to me. Being a quote-unquote Poketuber isn't authentic to me. I might like my Pokemon cards. I might like collecting them. And I still have my collection. And I have a treasure trove of unopened stuff that I stored in my attic because I know in 10 years when those are impossible to find, I will be overjoyed to be able to open them. Just like I would have loved to be able to open the packs that I opened when I first started making videos on them now. And then I sold off the rest of it. Got rid of it. Donated. Whatever. Donated a bunch of my loose stuff and card trays, and I had an acrylic dispenser for card packs and stuff. I donated all that to my local game shop. I was just done with it. And it left me with about a year and a half of content that wasn't successful. I didn't feel great about. Thousands of dollars of money having been spent and effectively wasted, because I spent way more on the hobby than I would have if I was just passively collecting. It kind of ruined the hobby for me because I spent so much money on it. I feel very uncomfortable going back to it now. It's kind of like an addiction, like it was gambling. I don't want to start it up and risk falling down that rabbit hole again. All because I was trying to clone someone else's success. I went from, when I was first making videos, the only kinds of channels making Pokemon card videos were a channel like, one was called Primetime Pokemon. And it was just some goofy sounding person opening cards because they enjoyed it with a basic camera just pointed at the cards, and that was it. And that's what I did for a couple years when I first started. To when I started again, it was all these channels talking about like the rarity of the cards and getting a full set. Everyone was after their full complete set and whether or not a card was good enough to get graded, measuring the centeredness of it, and just being over the top with production and personality and all that. And I was trying to clone that because I wanted so badly to be a part of the scene. And it took away from everything I wanted from that experience. And not only ruined it for me, but was just one of the biggest, like, I look back on and kind of regretted phases of my career. And there are lots of stories like that for every creator. And I'm sharing this, not to just vent and whine about my career, but to provide and illustrate an example of this happening so you can hopefully avoid this. Because every time, especially after you know how to make movies and know enough of what you want, every time you take a step to clone someone else's success because you want what they have, rather than taking what you can learn from what they did to build to your own goals, every time you do that, you lose. You lose a part of yourself. You lose a step away from what you actually wanted to do. You just lose. And it's not good. And I don't want to see anyone else falling for this. And I'm really worried about that with this current quote-unquote authenticity-obsessed scene, where something is seen as more authentic based on superficial ideas, like holding a microphone wrong on camera, or using a phone to record a microphone, or deliberately recording in the lowest quality possible because you're braver than that. None of those things make your video more authentic. It's like slapping on a VHS filter and claiming that your video is nostalgic. It's not nostalgic if it doesn't come from a source of nostalgia for you. That kind of thing can really pollute the mind and pollute your motivations, your intrinsic motivations and your desires. And you can come out the end of it being no better off and arguably potentially worse off because you've lied to yourself about your true intentions than had you just done the whole clickbait retention thing that people are trying to avoid. Like it's not any better if it's not true to you. So if you're gonna try to do what someone else is doing in any aspect, really, please, please, please take a lot of time, journal, take notes, really evaluate if it's true to what you want to do, if it comes from your roots and you're going to actually get something out of it. Please, please, please. And please remember to be kind, rewind.